What's up, guys? 13th District Court, State of Kansas, Judge Webster in the house. Let's go.
Let's go on the record. We are on the record in the 13th Judicial District, the District Court of Greenwood County, Kansas. This is our preliminary hearing control docket for 4/12 of 2024. First, I'll call the gentleman in the jail, case number 2024 CR 74, State of Kansas versus Tyler Lee McClure.
Judge, that's my client. I need a breakout room with him real quick to discuss a possible plea deal, if that's all right.
All right, we will go in recess on Tyler McClure. Missy, can you give them a breakout room? We'll be on the record in lease case number 2023 CR 3000028, State of Kansas versus Max Lease. Please announce appearances.
May it please the court, the state appears by Jill Gillette, County Attorney.
Mr. Lease is on his way upstairs from my lobby. He will be appearing by Zoom with counsel Steve Ariano.
Thank you.
Your Honor, this is a case in which we're waiting for a blood test result that we've still not received.
Well, the felony is a flea or attempted to elude. I don't really know that we would need a blood result on that charge, would we?
The KBI blood result for drug blood test was emailed March 13th.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay, well, I've missed it somehow. I hope I didn't delete it.
But again, I don't know that we would need it on a flee and elude charge. So do you want to set this for evidentiary hearing?
Sure, Judge, we can do that. We had it set for evidentiary hearing, and then I think we wanted to see the blood test results so that we could make some decisions about plea negotiations. And somehow I have missed the email. Did it come from you, Ms. Gillette, or?
It comes from my office email.
Okay.
It's the one that the girls use. It should be in your email.
Well,
Okay.
we'll set it for evidentiary on the flee and elude, and we'll either proceed or not. So Missy, give me about an hour, please. Maybe I don't even know we need an hour. An hour for good measure.
How far out did you want to go? Like 30 days?
No more than that. Well, that's probably about good.
I do have May 14th in the morning available.
Counsel, are you available May 14th in the morning?
We have one at 9. We can start this one at 10.
I can do that.
All right. Mr. Lease, I'm going to continue the bond you're on with the added condition that you reappear for preliminary hearing May 14th at 10 a.m. I will expect that to either go or be for some type of waiver or plea. Anything further?
I'll be in touch with Ms. Gillette before then. I will look for that email.
Thank you. We'll be in recess. Mr. Lease is excused. Mr. Ariano, have you anyone else on the docket?
I do not.
All right, then you're excused as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Where is Mr. Balderas? Where is he?
¿Se encuentra el señor Valderas presente?
Sí,
That's him.
Where? Margarita Exegia?
Yes, yes.
All right, Ms. Shirley, are you ready on that one?
Yes, Your Honor. We don't have a lab report yet, and there was I couldn't find in my notes that any field testing was done.
Well, let's go on the record. We are on the record in 2024 CR3, State of Kansas versus Miguel Balderas.
Estamos en la grabación ahora, el estado de Kansas versus Miguel Valderas, el caso número 2024 CR3.
Ms. Jill Gillette, County Attorney for the state. Ms. Mary Ann Shirley appearing for the defendant, who also appears in person and with the assistance of interpreter.
La señora Jill Gillette está representando al fiscal y la señora Mary Ann Shirley está representando al acusado y el acusado está presente aquí por medio de un intérprete.
The felony for which preliminary hearing entitles the defendant is solicitation to possess.
Your Honor, I believe it's just possession of methamphetamine.
They
It's the
changed
only
it.
felony.
I was going by what they entered in the computer, but let me take a look at the actual charging document.
It is just possession of methamphetamine, and we do have a field test. We do not have the KBI lab in yet.
The felony charge is in count 1, unlawful possession of the controlled substance methamphetamines.
El cargo registrado aquí es posesión ilegal de una sustancia controlada que es metanfetamina.
I understand from what you just said, there is a field test, no lab test.
Entiendo que hay una prueba de campo, pero no hay una prueba de laboratorio, por lo que se ha dicho.
There is a field test, no lab test. Is that correct?
Yes, the lab is not in yet. The field test is.
I
Sí.
don't have a copy of any field test.
I'll send
have-
it.
Parece ser que está el resultado de laboratorio, pero no hay de campo. Y dice su abogado, yo no tengo el resultado de esa prueba.
Ms. Gillette, do you think you can make probable cause with the evidence you do have, or are you thinking you must rely on the lab test?
I believe we can do probable cause based on a field test as long as Ms. Shirley's comfortable with it.
Ha preguntado el juez a la señora Gillette si puede probar, más allá de la duda razonable, con el resultado de prueba de campo. Y la abogada Gillette dice, creo que sí lo puedo hacer si está bien con la abogada de la defensa.
Oiga, disculpe, pero ¿cuál es esa prueba de campo?
Would you please explain to me what a field test is?
I will probably defer to your attorney where she can discuss that with you.
Le voy a permitir a su abogado que le pueda explicar eso, hablar con usted acerca de eso.
Okay.
And Your Honor, I don't have it. I went through my whole file this morning and again just now. I do not have a field test result.
Ms. Gillette, you can get that field test to her when?
It's already in her email. I sent it to both the 55 and the other one.
All right.
Su abogado acaba de explicar que ya no tiene el resultado. El juez le pregunta al fiscal cuándo le puedes entregar ese resultado y dice, se lo acabo de enviar, lo he enviado los dos con ella por correo electrónico.
O que ya le envió los resultados de cuáles.
So, what results were they sent to my attorney?
You want to take a brief recess with him, Ms. Shirley, in a breakout?
That would be fine, Your Honor.
All right, Missy, if you would please put defendant under Exegia, Mary Ann Shirley, and Miss Lopez in a breakout room, and we'll be in recess for now.
Nos van a pasar a otra sala para que su abogado pueda hablar con usted. Oprima el botón azul cuando lo aparezca en su pantalla.
Who do we have in the county jail now?
Mr. McClure? Tyler McClure?
McClure. Did you get to talk to your attorney? Is your attorney ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're back on the record in 2024 CR 74, State of Kansas versus Tyler Lee McClure, County Attorney Jill Gillette for the state, William McClendon, attorney for the defendant, who also appears in person in custody. How does your client wish to proceed, Mr. McClendon?
Your Honor, we'd like to set this over in front of a district judge pursuant to a plea deal.
So do you want to waive your prelim to get you to arraignment so you can do that?
Yes, Judge.
Very well. Does the state wish to waive its right to a preliminary hearing?
The state does waive its right to preliminary hearing, Judge.
Okay. Mr. McClure, your attorney has told me that you wish to waive your preliminary hearing. I need to go over some legal matters with you to determine that you understand what it is that you're waiving and the effect. Because you have the felony, well, you have a lot of felonies. Count 1, felony theft of property or services. Count 2, felony theft of property services. Count 3, felony theft of property or services of a firearm, both in 2 and 3. Count 4, 5, 6, and 7 all involve felony theft of property services with the firearm. So it is each of those 7 felonies that entitles you to the preliminary hearing. At a preliminary hearing, the state of Kansas has the burden of producing evidence to make it appear that each of these felony crimes has been committed and to show probable cause that you are the one that committed those crimes. A preliminary hearing is not a trial to determine whether you're guilty or not guilty. Rather, it's a hearing to determine if there's enough evidence to require you to stand trial, or in other words, to be bound over for trial. At a preliminary hearing, you have the right to be present with your attorney. You'd have the opportunity to challenge the state's evidence, to challenge the existence of probable cause for further detention or for requiring bail as to these felony charges. You would have the right to subpoena witnesses, cross-examine the state's witnesses, and present evidence on your own behalf. A preliminary hearing would apprise you about the nature of the crimes charged and the sort of evidence you would be required to meet if you were to stand trial. If you waive or give up your right to preliminary hearing, however, there will be no preliminary hearing, and you will be bound over to the district judge for further proceedings. You'll be required to appear at a later date before the district judge for arraignment, at which time you will enter your plea to the charges against you, including the remaining misdemeanor. Until that time, if you're in custody, you will be remanded to the custody of the sheriff. If you become released on bond, you will continue to be obligated under the terms of that bond. Now, have you talked with your attorney about waiving your right to preliminary hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you need any more time to visit with your attorney before we proceed?
No, ma'am.
Do you want to waive your right to preliminary hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you voluntarily waiving this right?
No, ma'am.
Is anyone making you waive this right?
No, ma'am.
So you're waiving it of your own free choice?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone made threats or promises to cause you to waive your preliminary hearing?
No, ma'am.
Are you in good health today?
So, yeah, somewhat.
What type of problems are you having that might interfere with your ability to make a sound decision?
Just freaking have a hard time breathing.
You're having a hard time breathing? Have you talked to the jail staff?
No.
Well, do you think that the fact that you're having trouble breathing is affecting your ability to understand what we're saying?
No, ma'am.
Do you think it has any effect on your decision to waive your preliminary hearing?
No, ma'am.
Do you think maybe if you got medical help for that, it would change your desire to waive your prelim?
If they can do anything, they can. They can't, they can't. Basically, it's been like that since I was a baby.
Okay, and if you've been able to function day to day with it throughout your life,
More likely, yeah.
is it like an asthma or do you know the cause of it?
Seizures?
Okay, do you feel like you've had a seizure today?
No.
Do you feel like you're thinking straight and clear right now?
Yes.
Okay. Are you taking any medications which might impair your judgment today?
No.
Mr. McClendon, do you know of any reason why the court should not accept the defendant's waiver?
No, Judge.
All right, Ms. Gillette, you said the state is waiving its right to preliminary hearing?
The state does, Your Honor.
Very well, the court finds the state of Kansas has waived its right to a preliminary hearing. The court further finds that the defendant has made a knowing waiver of his right to a preliminary hearing after consultation with counsel. The court finds the defendant is having some type of breathing issue that he's had throughout his life. It's affecting his judgment today, and he does seem to be appropriately responsive and understanding what his rights are and the consequence of waiving them. So the court will accept the waiver and bind over the defendant before the district judge for further proceedings. Missy, can you tell us when that will be?
Yes, this case will go to Judge Hart in May 30th at 1 o'clock.
The arraignment will be set before Judge Hart, May 30th at 1 p.m. The defendant will need to be here at that time. Now, are you in custody, sir, on any other charges?
No, ma'am.
You've just been unable to make the bond in this case?
I'm trying to find, I've got a lot of my numbers on my cell phone. I can't get to them because they're booking in my property.
Okay. Are you from Texas? Do I remember that correctly?
I'm from
Yes, Judge.
Kansas, but
I'm sorry?
was born and raised here in Kansas, but I'm more likely don't claim Texas as home. Basically, Kansas is home for me.
But you did live in Texas when this case started?
Yes.
Okay.
This case, not this case.
Who are you talking to? Or who's?
I was saying I wasn't living in Texas at the time on this case. I was here in Kansas.
Well, am I hearing someone else talk beside you or near you?
No,
No,
ma'am.
it's just me, Judge, sitting over here.
Are you talking to him?
No, I am not.
Ah, okay. So your bond is set at 15,000, having been reduced March 19th from 17.5. You came back March 29th and asked that it be reduced again. Ms. Gillette, I haven't heard Mr. McClendon ask for reduction, but I suspect that's where we're headed. Is that right, Mr. McClendon?
Yes, it is, Judge.
And have any new factors developed since the last time I saw Mr. McClure?
Nothing besides this waiver and the plea deal that we have in place.
Okay. Deputy, does he have access to some phone numbers? What's your rule on that?
It's just at the jailer's discretion. I'm actually going to let him get some phone numbers out of his phone after court's over.
Okay, and Ms. Gillette, your response to any kind of bond modification?
I just kind of need to know where he's at. He's been homeless coming into this, and so that was part of the issue. And he has lots of contacts out of Texas, so we're just worried about it. I'd like to keep him on a cash surety bond, and that way there's a bondsman that would be responsible to bring him back if he flees.
Well, I feel like with the number of charges and the type of charges, especially with the firearms and the record,
I got an address, Your Honor.
well, I think the bond is appropriate at this time. I'm going to leave it there, but if you want to readdress that with Judge Hart, you're certainly welcome to do that. So that will be the order of the court, and we'll be in recess at this time. You may go. Let's take up Alan Ott. Is Mr. Dunn and Mr. Ott here, or are they here? I see Mr. Dunn. Is Mr. Ott here by chance? I'm looking for Alan Ott. Alan Ott? Mr. Dunn, do you want to start your audio and video? About Mr. Kuhn and Billy Elliott. Attorney Kuhn is here. Okay. Will be on the record in 2023 CR 3000043, State of Kansas versus Billy Elliott. County Attorney Jill Gillette for the state.
Your Honor, if it pleases the court, Brian Kuhn on behalf of Billy Elliott.
Yes, and how does he wish to proceed? Does he wish an evidentiary hearing?
We would like to waive the preliminary hearing and go towards arraignment. We've reached a plea deal with the state.
Very well. Mr. Elliott, as you just heard me do with the gentleman before you, I have to go over some things. So you are entitled to preliminary hearing in both counts 1 and 2, as they are charged as unlawful voluntary sexual relations through intercourse with a child older than 14 years, but less than 16. And these are each level 8-person felonies. Therefore, you are entitled to these preliminary a preliminary hearing addressing these 2 charges. As I said to the other gentleman, at a preliminary hearing, the state of Kansas has the burden of producing evidence to make it appear that each of these felony crimes has been committed and to show probable cause that you committed each. A preliminary hearing is not a trial to determine whether you're guilty or not guilty. Rather, it's a hearing to determine if there's enough evidence to require you to stand trial, or in other words, to be bound over for trial. At a preliminary hearing, you have the right to be present with your attorney, as you are now, and you would have the opportunity to challenge the state's evidence, to challenge the existence of probable cause for further detention, or in your case, for further bail. And you'd have the right to subpoena witnesses, cross-examine the state's witnesses, and present evidence on your own behalf. The preliminary hearing also would apprise you about the nature of the crimes charged and the sort of evidence you'd be required to meet if you were to stand trial. If you waive or give up your right to the preliminary hearing, however, there will be no preliminary hearing, and you will be bound over to the district judge for further proceedings. You'll be required to appear at a later date before the district judge for arraignment, at which time you will enter your pleas to these 2 charges against you. And until that time, you will be continue to be released on your appearance bond. You will continue to be obligated to appear under the terms of that bond. Have you talked to your attorney about waiving your right to a preliminary hearing?
Yes.
Do you need any more time to visit with your attorney before we proceed?
No.
Do you want to waive your preliminary hearing?
Yes.
And are you voluntarily waiving this right?
Yes.
Has anyone made threats or promises to cause you to waive your preliminary hearing?
No.
And are you in good health today?
Yes.
Taking any medications which might impair your judgment today?
No.
Mr. Kuhn, do you know of any reason why the court should not accept the defendant's waiver?
I do not, Your Honor.
Ms. Gillette, does the state wish to waive its right to preliminary hearing?
The state does, Your Honor.
Very well, the court finds the state of Kansas has waived its right to a preliminary hearing. The court further finds that the defendant has made a knowing waiver of his right to preliminary hearing after consultation with counsel. Therefore, it is the order of the court that the defendant is bound over to the district judge for further proceedings. The defendant shall next appear for arraignment. Missy?
This case will go to Judge Ricky, and he's available May 9th at 9:30.
Mr. Elliott, you and your attorney must reappear by Zoom before Judge Ricky, May 9th at 9:30 for arraignment.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Yes.
a bond condition, wonder if the court would consider relieving the ankle monitoring from the bond condition.
I recall at the last hearing, there was discussion about him wanting to work maybe in the oil field and that bracelet being cumbersome. Am I remembering correctly?
You're correct, Your Honor.
And Ms. Gillette, the state's position?
Judge, I'm not necessarily opposed to it as long as he has no contact with the victim. The victim's in another part of she's in like 2 counties over, so I don't know that there's going to be an issue. I think he's like 2 counties away from us.
All right, I will allow you to remove the electronic monitoring device, provided you continue to have absolutely no contact with the alleged victim, or is there any reason you need to be in the county she's in?
No, I've currently found another job here in Wichita.
Oh, you're not in the oil field anymore?
No, ma'am.
Are you going to have to travel through her county to get to work?
Not at all, ma'am. We work around Newton, El Dorado. It's also by El Dorado. It's what's it on today? But yeah, no.
All right, you stay totally away from her, her family, her friends. No contact,
Yes, ma'am.
any form. Very well. If there's nothing further, we'll be in recess. Mr. Elliott and Mr. Kuhn are excused at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Mr. Dunn, is your client here?
I don't believe so. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I'm sorry about that. The phone rang just as you called my case, and that messed up everything on my end.
Oh, I understand.
I apologize.
No problem.
He's not here, and I don't think.
I'm looking for Alan Dale Ott. All right, let's go on the record. On the record in 23 CR 30030, State of Kansas versus Alan Dale Ott, County Attorney Jill Gillette for the state, Attorney Bill or William Dunn for the defendant who fails to appear for preliminary hearing control on 2 Offender Registration Act violations. Well, Mr. Dunn, do you know where your client is?
I don't, but I want to offer a possible excuse. He has 2 of these cases going on. One was set for trial earlier, like a couple of weeks ago. That was, we didn't make it to the top of the docket, and it set him for another pre-trial at the end of the month. I didn't remind him yesterday or the day before of this hearing. I am imagining, and I'm hoping you'll consider on his behalf, that he's gotten confused. These are all registration issues. They have to do with his address, which is in Madison. It's in Greenwood County. The police are well aware of where he is, I'm sure. And I'm hoping that we can set this over for another control docket. And I'm hoping you'll forego a warrant, particularly if I can get him in to appear before you.
Ms. Gillette, the state's response?
Judge, in serving subpoenas, we believe that Mr. Ott is in the Kansas City area again. We moved from the house that he was at, or maybe he is the one who wanted to come back down and stay where his family was, and he tried to go to a house where they were, and that did not work out. So, I don't know where he after he didn't have a house here.
Well, Mr. Dunn, you just about had me, but if he's not still in Madison, I am going to file a bond forfeiture, bench warrant, and double the $5,000 bond that he has. So new bond is set at $10,000, cash or surety required.
Can I get you to stay execution for a day or two to see whether I can get in touch with him? I mean, I didn't know about this Kansas City stuff. He may well be gone, but I haven't ever had any trouble communicating with him before now.
They moved the lady that he was staying with, and he supposed her to up near Kansas City because he was helping take care of her.
So there was a lady in Madison he was helping take care of, and she's moved to Kansas City?
As well. Mm-hmm.
And we don't know if he moved to Kansas City for sure. Are we assuming that he went with her?
He was supposedly moving with her, but I don't know where.
Oh, well. And when did you see him in court last, Mr. Dunn, on the other case?
The last, well, it's been a while. It would have been the pre-trial for the trial set earlier this month.
March 27th. We had him in court March 27th and set it for pre-trial and trial.
Well, Mr. Dunn, you must not have an address for him. Do you have a phone number?
Yeah, I texted him before when I realized he wasn't in the waiting room, and I haven't gotten a response.
I will stay the order until the end of this docket. If you're able to get a hold of him, I would entertain a continuance.
I'll give it a shot.
All right, thank you, counsel. We're in recess at this time. We'll pick up, is it Beaudre? John Albert Beaudre, is that right, Ms. Cummings?
Boudreaux.
Boudreaux. Will be on the record in 2024 CR 67, State of Kansas versus John Albert Boudreaux Jr. County Attorney Jill Gillette for the state, Attorney Nika Cummings for the defendant, who also appears in person. How does your client wish to proceed on the issue of evidentiary preliminary hearing, Ms. Cummings?
Your Honor, at this time, we would just ask for another setting because I just entered in on this case and just received discovery. Haven't had a chance to look at it.
State's response?
Judge, we just sent the discovery out to Ms. Cummings. We got her entry of appearance and sent it here in April, like 7 days ago. So it would have just arrived to her house or to her office because there was DVDs that had to be snail mailed.
All right, I will grant this request, but I'm getting stingier with how many of these I give. So hopefully we will not need another one after that. How much time do you want between hearings, Ms. Cummings?
Well, when is your next when is your next
Okay.
hearing date?
Missy, what do we have available next?
April 26th, but we're kind of full that day, so we
I've
could go
heard really full from what you've told me in the past. So
May 10th, maybe. At
And
1:30.
I'm not available on that day. What other day do you have available?
I have May 24th.
That'll work.
all right, Mr. Boudreau, you need to be back here May. What was that date again?
24th.
May 24th at 1:30 by Zoom with your attorney. That will be a condition of your continued bond, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing further, we are in recess. Ms. Cummings, do you have anyone else today?
No, thank you very much, Your Honor.
You're welcome. You and
Okay.
I are excused at this time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.